everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our resource person for today on the session on emotional regulation, Ms. Srimahalakshmi Nagasundaram. She is a counseling psychologist and a human development specialist with over 20 years of rich experience spanning across psychotherapy, academia, research, and life skills training. She holds a master's degree in human development from SNDT University, along with a postgraduate diploma in professional therapeutic counseling from Stonebridge University, UK, and is net qualified through the University Grants Commission. Over the years, she has worked extensively as a senior lecturer in child development and early childhood education, while also practicing as a therapist, life coach, and a soft skills trainer. Her work bridges theory and practice beautifully. She has conducted numerous mental health and emotional well being programs across education and corporate settings, helping individuals build resilience, self awareness, and emotional strength. She is also an international affiliate member of the American Psychological Association, a published researcher with Routledge, with her research focusing on life skills training and its impact on students' self esteem and depression. What truly distinguishes her is her ability to combine academic depth with real world clinical insights, making the session both evidence based and highly practical. We are delighted to have her today to guide us through the understanding on strengthening emotional regulation skills. So, let's welcome her warmly, and I request Sri Mahalakshmi to take on the lecture and enlighten us on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honey. Just to add on to all the great things that Honey has said about me, she's also a very, very dear friend of mine. So whatever she says, please take it with a pinch of salt. So thank you, IWSA, for giving me this opportunity. It's a very favorite and it's a topic that's very close to my heart on emotional regulation because through my practice and through research, I found that it holds the key to mental health well-being and mental health awareness if we want to look at. There's just a short PPT that I have prepared that would just kind of help us take this whole thing along. Do feel free to stop and ask if you have anything at all that you would like me to take. So, the science of emotional self-regulation, right? It's basically to understand about what is it about emotions that kind of put us in a bind most of the time, because it either overwhelms us or it kind of pulls us back and puts us into a shell. And most often than not, 2 or 3 days later, we are kind of thinking, going over the scenario in our heads, thinking, you know what, I should have said this, or I should have done this, and it would have turned the entire situation in a different manner. So that is what we want to understand. Is it like how people say that it's entirely out of your hands, or is there something that comes as a process? And we just need to take a couple of minutes to understand what this whole process is all about. Right? So by the end of this talk, I am hoping that we all get to understand that emotional regulation is a life skill. It's one of the mandated life skills according to the UN. The UN lists around 21 life skills, and under mental health, emotional regulation is one of the key life skills. We also, I hope we understand how stress influences our emotion, which influences our thinking, and which in turn influences our behavior, right? It's a flow chart. And we will talk a lot about the flow chart. We will identify the very key signs of what is an emotional overload and what causes us to shut down, and some very, very simple practical tips on how to restore balance back in our daily life once we've been through an emotional upheaval. Right. So now, what is emotional self-regulation. Right? The first key thing is to notice what you feel. And by notice, it means take a moment to feel it. The next step is to understand what you're feeling. And when I say understand, it means to distinguish your emotion. Are you really feeling angry, or is it just irritation, or are you frustrated? What is it that is really happening? And once the first and the second steps happen, then you typically respond to whatever is happening. You don't react, right? And like I said, right from the word go, the moment you start to notice what you feel, that itself is a pretty big thing, because most of the time we are just in a grip of an emotion. You're mad, or you're just overwhelmed because someone else is shouting and you just don't know how to react, and you just completely withdraw and your brain is just shut down completely, right? So you lost the game right at the get go. You just don't know what you're feeling. But in case you cross that path and you say, yeah, I think I'm feeling threatened, think I'm feeling scared, and you come to the next part of, do I understand what am I feeling? Am I feeling scared? Am I feeling irritated? Or am I just frustrated that this is just another thing that has to be done in the day's never-ending list of stuff? And once I understand what exactly I'm feeling, then I know how to respond to it correctly instead of reacting to a situation, which is normally the key to how you come back to the base situation, right? Now, emotional regulation is not suppressing emotion. It is not having a badge that says that, oh, I'm calm all the time, nothing phases me. I can be strong no matter what happens. No, that is just taking all your emotions, putting them in a box, tying it, and shoving it in the back of the corner, right? And the best analogy for that is, when you take a ball and try to push it down a bucket of water. And we all know what happens when you push a ball down inside a bucket of water. It's just going to come up and blast back at your face. What emotional regulation is how fast can you recover after a setback? How fast do you restore balance? And how can you repair whatever damage that your emotional reaction has caused either to yourself or to the person on whom it is being projected? And the key is to understand that everyone dysregulates under pressure. So this is the flow chart that I was talking about, right? You have information. The information comes and evokes an emotional response. Now, the emotional response is through memories. Somewhere in the past, growing up, in your childhood, that particular information caused a particular response, was associated with the memory, and that is what your brain is going to go back to, right? And that causes certain thought processes which will lead on to a behavior. Now, under stress, because there is a overwhelming information overload, what happens is the emotions hijack you and they go straight to behavior. The thought process is just bypassed. Now, to give you a example of this flow chart is, let's say a dog is running towards you, right? And the emotion that comes out is one of getting scared. You have a dog that is running towards you, you're scared at it. Why? Because somewhere along your childhood, probably you were chased by a dog, someone told you dogs bite, whatever be the thing. So the thought is the dog is going to come and bite me, which causes the behavior of either screaming or running, whatever. So that is your flow that happens. So a short biomodel here, right? Most of our emotions are controlled in the amygdala. The amygdala controls our emotional regulation. Now, the amygdala is also called as your animal brain. It's the part of the brain which tells you whether it is flight, fight, freeze, where are you going, what is happening, what is the response to that particular trigger that is coming at you. So the prefrontal cortex, which is actually the place where you think and you take a decision, the information doesn't even reach there before the amygdala has already hijacked the whole situation. And why has it hijacked it? Because the emotion has come with such a lot of sensory information that the emotions just crowd all over it and they take it away from that place. And that is termed as emotional hijacking. Right? And why do we call it emotional hijacking? It's because we feel. The first thing, whenever we see, we smell, we hear, we read, even before we start processing the information, we will first feel it. And only after we have felt it, after it is gone through the emotional brain, do we begin to analyze it. So the first filter is emotions, the second is analysis. So when danger is sensed, you react to it emotionally. So any part of your brain that helps you to process or to think or to rationalize it has to be engaged when you begin to sense a threat or when you begin to feel that you are going to bypass the thought process of the whole thing if you feel you're going to be emotionally hijacked. So what happens is your brain now senses a threat based on its past history. Again, going with the same dog chasing analogy. Somewhere in your childhood, maybe you were 5 years old, 6 years old, a dog chased you and you were screaming, and it was a very scary episode. Does not mean now at the age of 30 or 40, it still holds true. Right? That is the logical brain's thinking. Now, unless you let that threat calm and let the thought process take over, you're never going to get out of the emotional hijacking. The behavior or the response is not going to change. So the key is to first allow the information to reach the rest of the brain, to become aware that this is a trigger and I need to take a moment, and this is how I can maintain my emotional intelligence. Now, both the steps, 1 and 2, just require a few minutes. That's all. When we say allow the information to reach the rest of the brain, doesn't mean that please keep standing when there is a dog running at you. No, it just needs you to take a moment to calm yourself and think, is it really coming to bite me or is it running somewhere else? Can I just sidestep for a moment? What is it? Becoming aware of your emotional trigger. Okay, I know I am scared of dogs. I know this is an emotional trigger. I know it is a response to something. So, can I just take a moment to understand, am I reacting or am I responding to something over here? Few minutes, couple of minutes here, couple of minutes here. Everything changes if you just give yourself 5 minutes to think before you react. And that 5 minutes is termed as the window of tolerance. Now, the window of tolerance is a very thin place. It's a very fine line between hyperarousal and hypoarousal. So, if you're already hyperaroused, if you're already in a stressful state, if you're already anxious, if there is already a lot of emotional upheaval going, you're going to be impulsive. You're going to react, not respond. On the other hand, if there is the other part of arousal is hypoarousal, where you completely withdraw. You're so scared, you just completely withdraw and you just sit down, shut down, because you don't know how to react to the situation. You're scared to react to the situation. So, how do we help ourselves? Right? One is understanding yourself. Understanding yourself, and the fact is that by saying that, oh, I'm calm always or nothing ever phases me, is not the right response to any good place. That's the first thing, to understand yourself, to slow down your responses. Like I always, it's one of my favorite thing, go to places is, unless you're an ER doctor, nothing requires a instant response. Nothing. There is no life or death situation. Anything, any answer that you give can be said after a couple of deep breaths, taking 5 minutes. Just those 5 minutes make a whale of a difference in how you respond. What is it that you're going to say, right? The moment that you reduce the pressure of response, when you reduce the urgency to respond, your brain will automatically start going into the thought process. It will start thinking. So your prefrontal cortex starts getting engaged in making decisions. What is the logical way to solve this problem? Now, regulation often happens in a relationship. And what does that mean? It means that there has to be someone who's giving you that space to respond, not react, who's giving you that space to feel safe, who's giving you the space to take a couple of moments before you answer. Like I said, very simple technique, physiological regulation, breathing, grounding. So, a lot of breathing techniques, right? One of them is known as the box breathing, wherein you inhale to a count of 4, hold to a count of 4, exhale to a count of 4, hold to a count of 4. So it goes like a box. Breathing techniques. Now, why breathing techniques? Because the moment you do deep breathing, your brain is flooded with oxygen. And that induces a sense of calmness. It reduces the pressure, it lowers your heart rate. The moment your heart rate is lower, the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of anxiousness, the feeling of danger is lowered in our body. It's a very natural physiological process. What is grounding? Grounding is literally putting your hands down on the floor. Like they say, touch the grass. Can you see something? Immediately, 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can smell, 3 things you can hear, 2 things that you can touch. Things that take your head away from the information that it is getting overloaded. Focus on something and then come back to what is happening. Cognitive reappraisal. Cognitive reappraisal is thinking in a different way. Is there a different perspective to this issue that I am missing? Is this, if this were something that my friend was going through, how would I answer? What kind of um, advice that I would give? We are normally very good at giving advices. It's just that when it comes to ourselves, things don't work. But when it is for another person, everything works 100%, right? And then mindfulness. Mindfulness is being aware of everything that is going on around you. Most of the time, we are so caught up in doing something that we have no clue of what is happening. Or our plates are so overloaded that we are just going through the motions of doing stuff. So, what are the simple key takeaways, right? One is emotional regulation is neuroplastic. Neuroplastic, by its definition, is that you can train your brain to follow certain keys that will help you respond better in a situation instead of reacting. Staying in a stress aware learning place. If the atmosphere that you're working in, if the place that you're working in is aware of the stressors, if you're aware of what are all the triggers in the place that you're working in, what are all the stress points in the place that you're working in, it helps you prepare better in that place, right? And then finally, educators, because we are all in the field of educators, we are the ones who need to act as co-regulators. Only when we emulate or we practice emotional regulation can it be observed by people around us. And most often than not, emotional regulation is learned through observation, not as much as through teaching. Right? So this is just a flow chart of how things work. A stress trigger of, let's say, there is an exam, there is a presentation, someone is shouting at someone for some mistake. So the amygdala activates it as a threat. PFC is your prefrontal cortex. That gets suppressed. The moment the amygdala says there is a threat, the thinking just goes back, right? It reduces. And the behavior is that either you react, you start shouting, screaming again, or you shut down. You just completely withdraw and you say, yeah, fine, whatever. Go ahead. I don't care. So that's the process that we are looking at. So, what are the strategies? Clear routines. Always make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. Take micro breaks in between every task that you're doing. Take a minute to just recalibrate yourself. Am I going in the right direction? Is this what I set out to do? Am I doing it the right way? Understand mistakes happen. We are all human beings. Mistakes are the way we learn, right? Try to have a calm voice. A calm voice and a simple deep breathing wherein your heart rate is kept slow and steady will automatically bring down your stress levels. So, this is the toolkit. Name the emotion. This is very important because most of the time we have no idea what we are feeling. Um, Ask anyone what are all the different emotions. They can at the most identify four basic emotions, five or six if they are really tuned to themselves. But most of us don't know what we are feeling. It's very easy to classify it as happy, sad, and angry. But that's not always what we feel. It's not always sadness. Sometimes it's feeling nostalgic. Sometimes it is missing somebody. It's not always anger, it's irritation, it is tiredness, it is frustration that things are not going your way. Right? Slowing down the body through breathing techniques, through grounding yourself, reducing immediate demands. If you're doing something, just push that work away, give yourself time, just a minute or two, good enough to process yourself. If it is very deep, seeking a connection or support. Support really helps, and the support does not have to talk. Most of the time, support is just holding on to someone for just a couple of minutes till you ground yourself, and then you can start processing the information, right? And one of the best examples for seeking connection or support is typically if you have a child who's throwing a tantrum, you have a child who's misbehaving in the class, right? All you need to do is take the child away to a corner and just hold that child. Just hold. That's enough for a couple of minutes, calms them down. Return to the problem at a slightly later date when your brain is calm enough to understand what the problem is now so that you can start logically dismantling it to see where the issue comes from. So these are just some very common scenarios. And a lot of it also has to do with cognitive uh, reframing, right? Understanding that when there is a deadline or when there is something that is happening and you're not getting your way, it is stress, it is not a danger. So telling yourself that this is stress, this is not danger, I need to calm and approach this. Sometimes even writing it down as a flow chart helps us understand what is the next step that I need to do. This typically happens when you have a person who's shouting at you, right? You tend to withdraw because you don't know how to react. And in a lot of cases, if there has been a history of the person being yelled at or shouted at in their childhood, this becomes an emotional trigger. Right? They'll completely shut down after this. So, what helps is just the moment you see that the person is not responding, just pause the conversation. Or if you feel you are not responding to the person, just take a time out. Say, give me 10 minutes, I'll come back. Take a time out, go do your breathing exercises, ground yourself, think about what is happening, what is the issue at hand, what are you reacting for, and then come back so that now you can respond in a more logical manner. This is the third more common scenario is when you begin to shout, right? Typically, it's been a long day and you're just tired. Everything is seemingly going wrong. So then what do you do? Again, pause. If you feel you're not in a good place, please remove yourself away. And why do we say remove yourself away? Is because when you physically exit a place, the body feels that the threat has gone. So you physically exit, even go to another room, take deep breaths, ground yourself, think, and then come back. You'll be in a much better position. Right? So this brings us to the end of our of my presentation, and then I'm willing to open it up now for questions or any other case discussions that you would like to go.
Yeah, Lakshmi ma'am, Shahina here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you mentioned that kind of prepare yourself by getting into the situation. Ma'am, many a times, however prepared we are, but the situation kind of gets the worse or the bad side of you. How does one prepare for it?
So first thing is we all get dysregulated under emotions,
Yes,
right?
yes,
That was
yes.
one of my first things that I said in the uh, slides. So let's be clear that, like you said, no matter how prepared you are, there are going to be googlies that are thrown
Yes,
and
yes,
you
exactly.
are going to get caught into the. So the key is how soon you can come back to balance, right?
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
order to bridge the gap between the dysregulation and how soon you come back to balance is what I mean when you say prepare yourself. So, how do you prepare yourself? You prepare yourself by first understanding what are your triggers, right?
Okay.
And so, to understand triggers, we all have to understand ourselves, right? Now, triggers can be the time of the day, triggers can be the tone of a voice, triggers can be certain words, triggers can be certain people's actions, the way they speak, right? So some of us are morning people, some of us are night people. Now, typically for a morning person, right, if you call them in for a meeting towards the end of the day, you know they are already at the waning part of their energy levels. So you cannot expect them to be firing on all cylinders. So at that time, expecting them to give very clear inputs or for them to say how to take this thing forward is not going to happen. So that is a
Mhm.
trigger. Another thing could be words. For certain people, saying things like, don't act childish, or how can you be so stupid? Things that seem very flippant and trivial to a lot of people might be a trigger for a lot of people, based
Mhm.
again on what they have heard or what it means in their past or what they have grown up associating it with, right? So that becomes a trigger again. So that is what I meant when I said that you need to prepare yourself, and preparation comes from understanding yourself best so that you know what helps you get back to your balance.
Okay. Okay, good. No, yeah, because I mean, I speaking at a personal level, otherwise I feel even with I mean, as educators, we prepare ourselves and go, but sometimes, yes, in class, the emotional regulation goes for a toss.
Yes,
Yes. So,
yes.
yeah,
Again, for a lot of us, ma'am, you have to understand that when you have 20, 30 children who are talking at the
yes,
same time,
same time.
noise, yeah, noise is a big trigger for all of us, right? Our brains,
Mm.
we are not built for that much of noise and sensory stimulation at any given time. So, for most teachers, noise is a trigger.
Okay.
So all I can say is see if you can take micro breaks of getting out of the class for a minute and just breathing and then going back inside. But you know, those are just things that you need to see how can you regulate yourself.
Can I add a little something? This is Honey here.
Yeah.
Yes, honey, please.
Yeah, Shine is adding on to what Lakshmi said. Often this, as she said, one is micromanaging and aligning ourselves over a period of time. It comes. I mean, and knowing you, Shina, very frankly, I feel that you are quite emotionally regulated. But just for everyone, when we start practicing it over a period of time, you will see a change in yourself. So it comes gradually. It is not something that is developed overnight. And that's why, as educators, this is something that we need to inculcate in children, right, from the young age. So that helps a lot. When, right from childhood, when
Yes.
they learn to label emotions, when we give them, as Lakshmi rightly said, that not just happy, sad, and angry, but excited or enthusiastic or anxious or worried. Labeling what the child is feeling, so the child also knows what is the word that I have to use when I'm feeling a certain emotion. Helps in regulating emotions better. And the minute you label the emotion, half the battle is won because then the amygdala calms down, the prefrontal cortex comes into play because it knows, okay, I know how to deal with and worry. I know what I have to tell myself and doing metacognition. where you are commanding yourself, speaking to yourself, understanding your own thoughts. So I just thought,
Absolutely right, honey. I think you just kind of put the whole thing in perspective. Um, you know, we have so many things that we do with our children in schools, right? Even adults, school, middle school, high school, college, every parent or every teacher is focused on life ahead, on, okay, what will get you to get more marks? What will help you to achieve something? In which college can you get into, kind of a thing. But I've realized that if the child does not understand emotional regulation, if you do not know how to calm yourself when someone is telling you something, or if you cannot handle rejection and failure, then there is really no point of you getting any laurels, because this is your first life skill. The moment you know how to handle yourself is when you're going to know how to handle everything else that life is going to throw at you.
rightly said, Lakshmi.
Yes.
Also, there is a query in the chat box, a question that someone has written that she has been, this is from Dipti Yadav. She's saying that I have been suffering from anxiety. How to deal with toxic people? They trigger my anxiety and I feel suffocation. Please help. Guide.
Dealing with anxiety, especially when you realize that the trigger are toxic people, has to do a lot with cognitive behavior therapy, right? Wherein we will have to first understand or help you understand who are these toxic people? Why do you term them as toxic? What is it that they are doing that is toxic in your life? Why are your reactions to them negative? Where is that negative reaction stemming from? So there is a whole process that you will need to understand. And as you understand every single level, right, it will help you calibrate your responses better. Once you understand why do we term these people as toxic, what about their behavior is toxic to you, that is your first step in understanding what are you reacting to. Then the second step becomes what behavior of them is triggering me. Why am I reacting to that behavior? Where is my reaction coming from? That helps you calibrate your reactions. That is the second step. Then the third step begins to, do I really need to react to this? What if I react in a different way? What happens to the situation then? What if I take a step back and not react at all? What happens to the situation then? Right? So there are different ways in which we do the situation, emotion, behavior triangle of cognitive behavior therapy.
There's one more question in the chat box. A child is already doing ninth standard again. He shifted school and again not studying. How to regulate his emotions?
I didn't understand that. Could you just help me? A child?
The child is doing his ninth standard again, and he shifted school. He's not
Okay,
studying, and
okay.
so how do
And
we regulate?
how to regulate his emotions. Great. So the thing is, now we need to understand, one, why did the child shift schools? What is the history with the child? Because most often than not, managing a child's emotions are normally do not stem from the school per se, but it is because of an incident that is happening or happened. Was it because of bullying in the past school that the child has come to the school? Was it a home situation? Was it a family situation that has triggered the child, that the reason why it has come here? Again, children, whenever you work with children as educators, you have to understand that you are only one part of the solution, right? Because the child spends half his time in school and half the time back at home. So no matter how much you clean and polish the diamond, but if you're going to send him back into a situation where he's going to get dirty all over again, the graph is not going to move. So in this case, you will have to bring the school and the parents together on the same table to understand what is the situation, where are you going, and what is the best way to solve this.
Lakshmi, this was Anjana Kanwal, and she's also requested if she can see the reference slides. So she wanted the references for the presentation that you had made. So if it is possible.
Yes.
While those are being brought out, may I ask a question? I'm Sureka.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I noted one point on your slide saying that regulated child can learn while a dysregulated child cannot. What is the time lapse between reaction and response between these children?
Reaction and response, the time lapse actually depends upon how secure a child is or not, right? A secure child will typically try to respond first before reacting. Or even if they react, you can quickly calm them and take them back to respond.
Pros, I think, somewhere.
Their psychological makeup. Then the dysregulation is much more. That child will always react first and very rarely think of response.
And does it is age related? I mean, in the sense, would you attribute it to like up to 5 years, then 10 years, and so forth?
I wouldn't bring age as much as a point in this as much as the makeup of the child by itself, right? If the child has an issue that is not getting resolved, then what happens is the graph only keeps dipping as the child grows older.
Okay.
Because once you get into adolescence, the hormones take over. So whatever is already becoming an issue only gets worsened as the emotions take over. As the hormones take over. So age per se may not be as much a factor as much as getting into the whole psychological makeup of as to why a child is reacting in this particular way.
Okay.
Of course, certain reactions are very common. Unless the child has been, I like to keep going back to the dog example because it's very visual. Unless a child has been taught explicitly that dogs are friendly, the natural instinct for any child, the moment they see a dog, is to kind of go back, right? So certain reactions are very common in children. So that can't be taken up. So beyond that, if there is a reaction that is a little more to the extreme, then it comes down to the fact of where is it coming from? What is the basis of that reaction?
So would you would you say genetics has much to do with this in a sense that if it's such a behavior is there in the parents, you might see it reflected in the child, or it can be related by the, should we say, the atmosphere around, in the household or the school or.
Right. So the thing with emotional regulation or emotional management is not as much as genetics as much as it is modeled behavior. So unless it is very particular psychological or mental health issues that we are talking about, very typical ones like schizophrenia or OCD or BPD or something like that, where genetics might play a part of it. But if you are looking on the large of emotional regulation and emotional dysregulation, that comes from modeled behavior. What is the child observed at home? And that is what he thinks is the norm of how to react.
Okay, so the surroundings do make a big impression on
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Enjoyed your lecture.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm.
Someone
Yeah.
wanted the.
Any other questions? Anybody? Any other questions?
Ma'am,
Yes, here are the references. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
ma'am, I'm Nikita here. It was a very nice and informative session. Now, since we are beginners, okay, as educators, and we'll be handling the very children who are very young, like they're small. So, what, like, as you all are experienced, because when it is being taught to us, it seems we go with a lot of planning, but when we go
Hello. I missed. I didn't hear. Did anyone
No.
else hear?
The person's voice is gone.
Mm.
Okay.
Audio is gone from the other
Yeah.
end.
because you all are experienced in it, so that it becomes a little easier for us, because now it was just a internship, but probably in a month or so we will be hitting school, and the first 2 months are very crucial. So out of your experience, what is the checklist that we can do, some kind of main pointers that we can follow? And because initially it is more working on our parameters rather than what we are working on the children. So anything that you would suggest kind of on, ma'am, in this?
So I think I did that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but then, ma'am,
Sure.
see, but that was an over no surrounding,
Hmm.
and then teacher, children, nature, behavior, genetics. But this is just for the first 2 months as educators. What is that
Yeah.
we need to prepare?
Here, this is what you need to prepare. This slide. First, keep yourself calm. If you're going to feel anxious, it is going to reflect in your behavior. It is going to reflect in the way you talk. It will show up, which means children will pick up on that. So keep yourself calm. Second, always keep your voice very low. The lower the voice, the calmer you feel. The
Keep yourself
higher the
low.
voice, the more
Hmm.
agitated you become. Third, take short breaks. If you think it's getting a bit overwhelming, give some activity. When the children are engaged in an activity, just a minute. Just go outside, do a count of 5. Deep breaths. Come back. You'll feel a lot calmer.
Okay,
Whenever
ma'am.
you find that a child has misbehaved, avoid public shaming. Try to take the child next to you to understand what is it that is causing it. See, of course, all these things are very easy, but I understand. I've also been on that side where when you are a teacher, when you're standing in front and you have like 20, 30 children who are all misbehaving, it does get a little difficult. But that is going to come only through a lot of practice. So you will have to first calm yourself to say, you know what, chaos is the norm. Chaos is the way this is going to be. So, how do I not get affected by that? What are the things that I can do to keep myself calm so that I can induce that calmness to the children around?
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Just share this particular thing, ma'am, to us on the portal, on our classroom, that pointers which you just shared right now.
Nikita,
That
this
slide.
is Nikita. This is not a class lecture. This is a lecture and
Okay.
yeah. So if we can, I will. I think if it is being recorded, it is being recorded. You can see it on YouTube, right, Priya ma'am?
Yeah, okay, ma'am.
Correct. It is
Yeah.
recorded. So
Yeah, it's
you can
recorded.
watch
So I'm
the
sure.
YouTube.
Yeah.
IWSA SAOL YouTube. Once it
It-
is updated, it
yeah.
will be notified.
Yeah. So you can watch the whole thing. Yeah. Any more questions, anyone?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, Shaina, I have
Yes,
written
ma'am.
message, but I just want to thank Lakshmi. I think we met. I'm Nutran here.
Hi,
Before,
hello.
okay. So I mean, girls though always have been telling us that your lectures are very good, interesting, and all that. But today, as a
Thank you.
student, I felt very good, interesting, because this topic is so relevant, and for teachers like me, when we were college, were young, and many my college students also, it's difficult to manage them sometimes. So I can
Oh
imagine
no, yes, yes.
how difficult it is. And we have to keep like
Oh,
our mind should be so much calm and quiet, and all these things which you have discussed here, maybe these teachers are and the trainee teachers are also feeling the same thing. So very good lecture, very informative
Thank
for
you.
all of
Thank
us
you.
from IWSA team. Hope sometimes again we can meet. Looking forward to meeting you whenever you
thank
are
you. I
in.
do too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Anybody? Any participants? Any more questions? Honey, at your end, do you have any questions or queries?
Shaina, I think Lakshmi has clarified the topic very beautifully. So that gives us a holistic view of
Yes.
emotional regulation.
Yeah. So, Lakshmi, I really like to take this opportunity to thank you for, giving us this good and very practical insight into emotional regulation. I mean, they sounded like big words before, but right after your presentation, they are, very clear and very simply explained. And the best is I like that slide, the toolkit. It made it, yeah, it made it sound easy and doable.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing that SOL is going to, IWSA SOL is going to share this on YouTube. I think we can have it and keep referring to it as and when needed. So thanks a lot, Lakshmi, for this. And at the same time, thanks a lot, Science Awareness Committee, especially Surekha ma'am and Suparna ma'am, who have been, very forthright in trying to arrange lectures for us, keeping our age group and target group in mind. So, ma'am, thank you, Science Awareness Committee, and of course the participants. And I hope it was a good, useful one for you all as well. Please do share your feedback so we can bring more such kind of lectures for you all. Yes, thank you,
Thank you
Lakshmi.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, IWSA. Thank you,
Thank you.
Shaina ma'am. Thank you, Honey.